In our last video, we ended with this table that summarized the base 10 along with the decimal number system. If we were to summarize both the whole number part and the decimal part, we would get a chart that looks like this. In the middle, we will see the decimal point, but just remember the number 1 is also in the middle. This is better seen in a place value chart. Notice how the ones place and the decimal point act like the middle between the different numbers. On the left of the ones place, we see the tens, and on the right of the decimal point, the tenths with a THS. On the left side, we see the whole number part, and the right side, the decimal part. Understanding the design of the place value chart makes it easier to do computation in decimals, order decimals, and compare decimal numbers. Okay, so now is your opportunity to try and compare some of these numbers. The first question asks is which number is greater, 0.37 or 0.365? Well, we can use the understanding of dividing the space between different units into 10 smaller units to help us out. Notice here we have 0.36 and 0.37. Remember, 0.36 can be written as 0.630, and the number that will come right after that will be 0.361, 0.362, and consecutive numbers to follow, right up until 0.369. Notice it ends with 0.37, and remember we can put an additional 0 at the end of any decimal number, and that number will still be the same. Because we have already established that every unit can be divided into 10 units, this can help us to determine which one of these numbers is the bigger number. 0.37 or 0.370 is at the end of this number line. 0.365 is right in the middle. And so it's clear from this number line which number is the greater number. However, it will be pretty difficult to always draw up a number line every single time we want to compare different numbers. So what we can do is use the place value chart. Here is an example of putting the numbers into a place value chart to compare which number is the larger number. So we see 0.37 and 0.365. The way that we utilize the place value chart is to compare each digit in its place value to see which one is the larger number. If we start with the first digit, or the tenths place, we'll see that the 3's are the same, so then we need to move on to the next place value. If we move to the second place value, or the hundredths place, we will see that the 7 is larger than the 6. And because 7 is larger than the 6 in the hundredths place, it means that 0.37 is the greater number when the two numbers are compared on a place value chart. There's a third way that we can look at this. The number 2 is no different than 2.0, $2. And I can keep on putting additional zeros after the number 2, and it still represent the same number. So we can do that here when we compare these numbers. We can put an additional 0 after the 7, and we can look at that number as 370 and 365, and it's clear which one is bigger. So we can end this question by simply saying the number that is greater between 0.37 and 0.365 is the number 0.37. Okay, let's try number 2. Which number is smaller? Is it 0.49 or 0.4075? Once again, we can use a place value chart to help us by comparing each place value. When we look at the first place value after the decimal point, the 10th position, we notice that the numbers are the same. So we need to move on to the second place value. In the hundredth place, we see the digits 0 and 9. And since 9 is larger than 0, that means 0.49 is the larger number. Since we were looking for the smaller number, then our answer would simply be 0.4075. Remember, the other way that we can do it is we can match up the amount of digits by putting additional zeros. So since 0.4075 had 4 digits after the decimal point, we can put 2 more zeros after the 9 in the second number to make sure that their digits are the same. And when we do that, we can kind of compare the numbers as 4,075 compared to 4,900. And if we were to do that, it's clear that 0.4075 is smaller than 0.49. Okay, number 3 asks us to write the decimals in order from least to greatest. To do this, we can utilize the place value chart again. We can compare each place value, the 10th position, and then we can compare the hundredths position. Since the 10th position, all the digits are the same. Remember, you can put a 0 placeholder there to assist you in comparing those values. Then we can move on to the thousands place as needed, then on to the 10,000s place. But as stated before, on a test or in a timed assignment, this will not be as practical. So we can use the idea, the concept of the place value chart to help us in answering this question without drawing out the actual place value chart. Of course, this concept comes from using the place value chart enough times to remember which digit is in the correct place value. Okay, let's compare each digit in each of the place values to see which number is the greatest. Notice here that all the digits are the same, and so what we can do is underline or make some type of marker to compare each place value. Since they are all the same, we move on to the second place value. In order to do that, we might need to put in some zeros to assist us. Some students don't need to do this, but if you think you are, you can always put these zeros in to match up the 4 digits in the second number. Once we do that, we can compare now each place value. And notice in the first number, it's a 6, in the second number, a 5, the third number, a 0, and the last number, 6. Since 0 is the smallest digit in that number, it means that 0.6 is the smallest number. If we continue looking at the second place value, we'll notice that the second number has a 5 in the hundredths position. Since 5 is smaller than the 2 6's in the hundredths position, it means that 0.6587 is the second smallest number. Now we just need to compare the first number and the last number to see which one is the least out of those two. To do that, we will move on to the third place value. We no longer need these two numbers, and when we compare the 0 and the 1, we see that 0 is the smaller digit. Because 0 is the smaller digit in the thousands place, that means 0.66 is a smaller number than 0.661, and obviously 0.661 is the largest number. And that's how you put any list of numbers in order, by comparing the place value. Remember, you can utilize the place value chart or by underlining the digits accordingly.